On this third Friday of the month, we have in studio with us, is kind enough to come up and talk about the business of Wood County, is Board Chairman Doug Machon. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, yeah.
Hi, Tom. It's nice to be here. Always great to come to Marshfield. Love coming to Marshfield.
By the time we get to see this is being videoed. It may be past already for some people, as this plays for 30 days after, and we re-up the program every 30 days when you're kind enough to come in and talk to us.
Yeah. Well, then, Merry Christmas to everyone out there. Happy New Year. Happy holidays.
How's the new year looking for the county?
Well, I think, this time of year is typically kind of a dead spot in the year as far as things. We're busy cleaning up departmental budgets with some adjustments to the budgets for unexpected revenues, in some cases unexpected.
Ooh, revenues are good.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Unexpected bills, not so much.
And that's the way grant money flows through. A lot of people don't understand a big difference in government accounting versus private is grant funds don't always come in on a strict schedule, and then also sometimes grant monies are dependent upon criteria and statistics that you don't get until the end of the year. So what you can budget for, say for instance, in our long-term nursing care facilities, Medicare has ways of adjusting rates for how much you get, and it depends on certain criteria that may move about during the year. So at the end of the year, if it's up, you may get a surplus check that you weren't expecting. You also may get a decrease, and we've had both of those happens. But so you have to adjust your budget. State law says we have to adjust our budgets by full board votes, and so that's what we do. We were busy. I think we had 26. I believe we had 26 resolutions at county board on last Tuesday, which is not a record, but it was pretty darn close. And a majority of those were budget resolutions, $5,000, $8,000. The gamut is wide on those things. It could be anything from $50,000 to $3,500, but you still have to do the adjustment.
Expound upon that for a moment. When you're doing governmental budgeting in a board size entity here, you have to have not only once the budget is set now, in order to amend that, what does that process take?
It takes a resolution written by, whatever department it would affect. And those things are pretty much kind of boilerplate as far as, Corp Council. There's a paradigm for doing that, very short paradigm. You basically have to explain why the budget process is being adjusted one way or the other, unexpected revenues, unexpected expenses, unanticipated expenses, and things like that. And so it's just a basic resolution that goes before the board, and I think most of the board members understand that that's exactly what it is. Those are just the everyday mechanisms of running county government, and especially in the fiscal sector. Doesn't have much effect on the overall budget. I mean, we're not going to go into a sudden deficit because of it. We're not going to have a great surplus because of it. So just standard housekeeping.
Would the shifting sands be the better way to put it? Because it's not going to be an increase in tax rate, or
it's out of one pocket into another. You for every one that you get unexpected revenues, you probably have one that you have unexpected expenses. So it basically balances out. Yeah.
Until I talked to you and the mayor in the past few years on this program, I guess I was not completely aware of how the tax structure works, how the trickle-down happens from federal to state to government, local, whether it be county or city. And a lot of the money that I pay in taxes may be sent to the top, but it comes back in the form of some other people who are going to determine for me who gets what.
Yep. Yes, indeed.
And that's, I guess I didn't realize how much of your...
See, now you're one of the 10 people in Wood County that understand it.
I don't pretend to. I get the picture. I don't know how the Plinko goes down here.
Exactly, and I don't know. I'm not sure that I do either. So, but the fact is, you're exactly right. On a very broad level, that's exactly what happens. Your federal tax dollars do come back several in several ways. When you talk about Medicare, Medicaid, those types of deals, a lot of our social programs, that's money that's initiated at the federal level and comes back through the state, and the state gives us the ability to sometimes massage programs, develop programs, and decide how we're going to distribute that money. In some cases, in some cases, we're strictly monitored and have certain criteria of how it's got to be done very specifically. But we have some latitude on a lot of things.
And there's where all the discussion goes, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, when we give our tax money, it's not the old saying I say is, it's not. I'm not against paying taxes. I'm against what they do with the money.
Yep.
Because if I were in that chair, what would I do? And it may or may not agree with how that's done.
Absolutely, and I always say too. I kind of categorize it this way, or characterize it this way: is that taxes are not a good thing. Nobody's going to tell you taxes are a good thing. I mean, but the programs that taxes pay for are. I mean, I like to have my snow removed from my street so I can get in my driveway after we have 10 inches. I like my garbage picked up. I don't have to haul it to the dump. Things like that. And I like to make sure I like to know I can go to a restaurant and not worry about get food poisoning or get some kind of bacterial infection or things like that. So there's a lot of good things that taxes pay for. I think that if many people were asked whether they would like to live without some of those amenities, they'd say no, absolutely not.
As some of those programs are rolled back, though, we begin to understand why they were there in the first place.
Absolutely, and that's a very, very good point. When you start to, I can tell you, I can give you an example. You can go to some counties that don't have the tax base that Wood County does, and look at the programs, and look what they have. And then ask yourself if you'd like to live that way. If you go to some of the poorer counties, I'm not going to name any names here, but I mean, you probably can, in your mind, can look at a map and pick them out. You go up there. You think our roads are bad sometimes? Go drive some of them up in the northern counties. My wife and I vacation up there. Look at some of the things they have going on there. Just some of the initiatives that we're able to take in Wood County because of the economic base that we have, as far as economic development, those things that we can get involved with. We're fortunate to be able to have the money and wherewithal to do that.
Talking with Wood County Board Chairman Doug Machon here on today's Insight program this third Friday in December. You can too, 384-2191, 384-2191. Just as people tune in and out and get in through their daily lives listening to the radio here, I always talk about these things that it seems like we repeat when we talk about budgets and things over and over again, but on the other hand, not everybody's here at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's the workaday world. People put their head down and going about their business, and sometimes you get disgusted because people don't give you input.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's problematic sometimes. I love it when constituents get a hold of me and ask good questions. In fact, just last week I had one constituent talk to me about a number of questions that were pretty general, but I love that, being able to tell people and explain to somebody, what's going on, why we're doing it, and you know what, get their input, because I think that's very important, and it's not hard to get a hold of anybody. When we talk about budgeting, basically the breakdown in county government is, when you're elected to the county board, you're a policy person. That's the name of the game for you. You're not a manager. You don't go into departments and tell a manager how to run his department. That's beyond your, number one, it's beyond most supervisors' capacity and ability, and number two, that's not the way it's supposed to work. We hire those people to do jobs. We pay them good salaries. They are professionals. We vet them when we hire them. They have technical expertise and skills that we do not have. So for us to go in there and try to tell them that's not what we're supposed to be doing, but we make policy that those people are supposed to follow. I always have said, what's bigger policy than the budget? That is your job. I mean, that is, from my perspective, that is our job as supervisors, to manage the purse. And you do that by, number one, being very selective about the programs and asking the right questions. Is this the right program for us? Is the cost justify what we're going to get from it? And those types of things. Or are we just going to throw money around? And so there's no bigger policy than the budget, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I would look at it as, say, taxes and government is a losing proposition, because if it was profitable, somebody else would do it, and it could be done in the private sector. So there's other things here that
hallelujah.
It's the cost of what business people call the cost of doing business,
and
it's the cost of living in the county. It's
the cost of living in a civilized society, if you want to really take it out there. But yeah, absolutely. Fire protection, police protection, courthouse security, register of deeds, GIS. I mean, look at those things. Ask anybody if they want to get rid of those. You know what? We can save you a lot of money in taxes. We'll get rid of the fire departments. You got a big bucket? You got a hose? You got a well? Those are the questions. I mean, when you get right down to it, those are the things. What do you want to do? Anybody can be a minimalist. You can go live in a tent if you want to. But the fact is, as a society, that's not the way we've chosen. And you're right. We still have arguments about how we spend at the highest levels, whether a program is justified or not. Especially when you get into the social programs, I mean, you can have discussions somewhat on some of the more basic services, and really those are no-brainers. Yeah, we need to have that kind of stuff. But when you start getting into, there's so many of them I can't name them, but long-term care facilities, having a long-term care facility in the county, that's been a discussion that's gone on for probably a decade or better now across the state in counties. That's a philosophical question from a county perspective. And we choose to do that. And sometimes we choose to do that at a cost that a lot of people don't think is appropriate. I can tell you this, when we talk about long-term care facilities and the funding for long-term care facilities in Wood County, we do very good. We don't operate in the black, but we do very good compared to other counties that have them. I would say we are in the top handful of counties as far as what we get in. And we have a facility in Port Edwards that's a 5-star facility. And when I go to private facilities in the county and I look at them and compare them to our public facility, there's a reason why we're 5 stars. Believe me, there is a reason.
Well, people would say, yeah, you got an income, that won't run dry as long as you can hit the taxpayers up for the bill.
But then there's the other side of the coin that would say the service matters to me. If my mother's in there, I want that high level of service. I don't want the heat turned down so that somebody can make a profit, and I don't want one CNA when I can have 3 and be sure that my mother or father or great aunt or whoever it is, child in some cases, is properly cared for, properly fed, properly bathed and taken care of. And those are the questions. But that's a philosophical question. I'm not going to weigh in on one way or the other, but the fact is that's the discussion that you can have on those programs when it comes to taxation and spending.
The cost of those in Wood and Marathon County has come to my attention over the last decade or so because when facilities need to be repaired or when there's something that needs to be a high dollar purchase done or how the future is going to go, are we going to go this way or this way, suddenly there's a lot of money involved in this.
I'll tell you what, Jeff, you want to throw another one and you want to throw another wrench into that works, talk about Alzheimer's and dementia and how it's going to affect that elderly population, and not only the elderly population in general, but indigent elderly population. What do you do with somebody on the socioeconomic ladder at the bottom of it that develops Alzheimer's? What are you going to do? Kick them on the street? Ain't going to happen. You can't do it. As a society, we're not going to allow that to happen. So what do you do? They're going to come in and they're going to affect your long-term care facilities because that's where they're going to end up, one way or the other. And one way or the other, you and I are going to be paying for that, one way or the other.
There was a time, now there's different reasons for that, but out here in Marshfield there was a facility that was a government entity that was dismantled. There was a time when that was thought as being cruel and unusual or...
Long time ago, but I've seen.
You're talking 50 years or more ago when wind was blowing so that this would all be privatized and we're just going to mainstream people. And I wonder if we haven't caused some of the ills on the streets that we have nowadays.
I don't know. That's again a philosophical question that I'm not prepared to get into. But when it comes to those, and Alzheimer's dementia is just a piece of. But when you talk about mental health in general, look at the discussion. When you and I were younger, the discussion of mental health, it wasn't as pervasive and broad as it is now. I mean, there are a lot of problems that we have in society that we can trace back to mental health. So when do we address mental health? Do we address it in grade schools? Because we now have the technological expertise to identify certain personality traits at a very early age. So do we identify those traits in grade school and then take steps to make those people more, on a very basic level, be able to do a decent job interview, be able to understand that there's some ethics involved in being a citizen, that you need to perform in a certain way in order to progress and be successful or have some level of success in society. Those are all big questions, and you can dive into it head first and think you're getting somewhere one day, and suddenly the ball turns and everything's backwards the next day. So, but there's been a lot of thought and there's been a lot of successful things. I think a good example of that for me is, and I've changed my opinions on a lot of things. I wasn't sure about peer supervision and peer specialists when it came to AODA. When that was first proposed, I thought, yeah, you know what, that's a cheapo. We're not going to pay psychiatrists. We're going to get people for $10 an hour that have suffered from the same problems, and nothing's going to happen. Guess what? I was wrong. I go into those places now on a regular basis because I'm very, number one, intrigued, and I'm very empathetic, and I like what I'm seeing, and I like the fundamental basics that have changed, and that is a successful way to approach those problems. Because one of the biggest questions when you talk about mental health or AODA, any kind of dependencies, is stigma. Societal stigma. And when those people have something as simple as a respite center where they can go with people that understand them, have had those problems, experienced those problems, they feel safe. And that's a big deal. We talk about it a lot. And I think it's it's been incredibly effective.
Talking about budget here is where we got to this point in the conversation.
It's funny how it goes.
Wood County Board Chairman Doug Machon, my guest here today on the Inside program, this third Friday in the month of December. The other day, the news broke, whether or not it's going to happen that way. It was the story that the increase in state taxes.
I think everybody knew it was coming. I mean, the bubble. You got to pay for the stuff. You have to pay for programs. It's going to happen. And there again. You go into the philosophy of what do you want to pay for, and how much do you want to pay. I don't like my tax bill going up. I don't like it, especially when it's going for programs that don't directly affect me. And I think that's where we are. We get selfish. You know what? I understand the philosophy of doing something. If it's not going to affect me, we have a big divide in the state. I'll tell you what, when we talk about two things. You can talk about Milwaukee County, and you can talk about the rest of the state. You know, us people up here, if we're going to stick state money into things that are going to affect Milwaukee County, well, you know what? I don't know. But
put up a toll booth. Let them pay for their own stuff. I'll tell you what,
go pay taxes in Milwaukee County. I have a daughter that lives there. Holy cow, forget it. Not the place I want to live. But cost of living is higher. But you know what? Wages are higher too. I mean, the money that they make down there is, give me that money and let me bring it back to Wood County. I'll live a lifestyle.
See, and that's when your kids and my kids see that number of their wages and they go, oh, that's great. And then they go down there and they realize the cost of living caught up with them.
Absolutely.
And I'm not taking anything more than I did before.
Fast, yeah, absolutely. And it costs to live down there. I mean, I give an example, daycare. Holy cow, when they tell me what they're paying for daycare, it's like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me.
That's a huge problem in society, all across the county.
You know, I said it's crazy. I've said this for years, but it's amazing what the two most vulnerable segments of our population are our very youngest children who we love and our elderly adults who we love. We're always looking to cheap out there the most we can. I mean, when you're looking for a babysitter, you're looking for the cheapest daycare you can get. When you're looking for a long-term care facility, you're looking for the cheapest one you can find.
Well, what's the first question? Yeah. How much is it going to cost me?
Exactly. And those are the people that we, at least we, if perfunctorily only, say we care the most about. I mean, no one, of course, I love my child. I would do anything for my child. I love my father or my mother, and I would do anything for them. But okay, how much does it cost? Yeah. Okay, we'll get back to you on that. But those are the questions. Yeah. Everything. It's true what they say. Money makes the world go round.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's holding it? That's the problem we have now.
It's like I tell my wife, there's a lot of rich people out there. We're not one of them.
Just look around.
Yeah.
It became obvious.
Yeah.
Talking with Wood County Board Chairman Doug Machon, as we do once a month here on the third Friday in December on AM 1450 WDLB, live, if you know that. We may be watching us on video here coming through Marshfield Media Access. You can access them on the Facebook or on their homepage as well. We'll talk more coming up here about, I guess it's always about the budget for whatever reason, and how much is this going to cost? That's what we were just talking about. You know, are you looking out for me here on WDLB?
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to hear what friends and loved ones say. Hey! This is Karen from the Hearing House.
And we know you have many choices for hearing healthcare providers, but I want to let you know why the Hearing House should be your choice. We are locally owned and operated. We have a convenient location with parking right outside our door. We offer a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. We have flexible hours. Our aftercare is outstanding. We have over 30 years combined experience. We have locations in Marshfield, Wausau, Colby, and Neelsville. Plus, we have hearing aids that will fit every budget and lifestyle. Let us help make your house a hearing house for the holidays by calling 715-384-4700. That's 715-384-4700.
The Hearing House. Make your house a hearing house.
Hefco Floral Company in Marshfield is making holiday shopping easy, festive, and fun. Deliver joyful season's greetings to family, friends, and business associates across town or across the country with fresh flowers, holiday plants, and Abdallah's candies from Hefco Floral. Shop 24/7 conveniently online at hefco.com. Open during the holidays Monday through Friday 8 to 5:30, Saturdays 8 to 3. Hefco's your florist. We help you celebrate the holidays.
WDLB's Insight program here, live on AM 1450 WDLB, this third Friday of the month of December, the 20th. Or you could be watching us on Marshfield Media Access here as we're talking with Wood County Board Chairman Doug Machon. He's gracious enough to talk with us here and along the county line, up along Merriwood County line here. I say across the street, I'm in a different county. So.
That's right.
But it's part of the city.
Yeah.
It's not unusual. That happens a lot in America.
Be careful where you spend your money in Marshfield.
Yeah, the Main Street would tell you the same thing, I guess.
Great Main Street. I love coming. It's like I said off air. I love coming to Marshfield. There's a feel to Marshfield, and I love the fact that, and I've always admired this, that Marshfield has kept their Main Street intact. And it goes through ebbs and flows as far as businesses and the content of those businesses and the viability and the relevance of those businesses. But the fact is, they've done their expansion on the outskirts of town with the big national chain type stuff, but they still have maintained it. And when I come to Marshfield, I like to. In fact, on my way back, I need to look for one last Christmas present for my wife, and I'm gonna stop in some of the shops along Main Street. And I love being able to walk the sidewalk and park my car and walk from one shop, come out, and not have to get in the car.
Okay, boomer. Yeah. That's what the kids say. They don't worry about that nowadays. They cruise right through their phone.
Yeah, I guess.
But that's a time and a place that you and I experienced, and
weren't those the days?
It was something.
Remember a Friday night at Christmas? This time of year, think back. Let's go back 50 years for me. This time of year, on the Main Street in Wisconsin Rapids on a Friday night, it would have been shoulder to shoulder on the sidewalks. You'd hear Christmas music playing in the stores. Every place would be bustling. People would be happy. Maybe some snowflakes are falling. I mean, it's those days we'll never see again. The sad part is my kids have never experienced that, so they don't have that nostalgic feel for it like I do. But those were special times, and I think that's we miss a lot of that sometimes. That community, that feeling of community. But it is what it is.
The county spends some time keeping some buildings open that hopefully community can be refurbished or reestablished again.
Yeah, we if you don't mind, I just came back. This is my third trip to Marshfield in 3 days. I think I told you that off air, and I'm fresh off a 2-day workshop that was about our READY grant that we got from the USDA, and I can give you a little history on that. The READY grant and stands for Rural Economic Development Innovative Initiative, and it's REDI is how they do it, READY grant. And it's through the USDA Rural Development part of USDA. And it came about because the Secretary of Agriculture saw some things in the rural economies that because of the ebb and flow and basically, I don't want to say demise, it's too strong of a word, but probably the the effects that we've had in the farming communities as far as pricing of commodities and how that's depressed those areas. He saw the effects that it was having in rural economies, so that he wanted to do a study and identify what some of those things that were happening were, what was causing them, and then they wanted to fix the problem. Came up with this READY grant proposal, and they give you basically the people that are going to work with these. The communities need to apply for the grant. Okay, so there was competition to get the grant, and then the people that
At
were
what level? City, county, village?
We went as a county. I think most of it is county work, but there were in some individual cities, I think that municipalities that got it as well. But there was a competition for that to see who could get the grant, and then also there was a competition among the people that were going to come in and do the technical expertise side for these people. There was a competition as well, and so we were very fortunate to get the grant. I believe for the grant that we applied for, there was 100 applicants, I think, and I think I can't quote the numbers because I'm not sure, but I think maybe 50. It was either 15 or 5 communities got the grants out of the 100 that applied. And then we were fortunate to get the people that are going to work with us are the University of Purdue and the University of Kentucky. These people were basically backgrounds of economy and the public sector, government, different building of economic bases, different things that related to the technical side of economic development. And then they also were going to bring in the UW Extension, which was that's a great benefit for us as a county. So we came together for the first time. They tasked us over. We did some webinars with the group. We had an original core group of myself, Ken Curry, who was the chairman of our seed committee, and then Nancy Turek out of UW Extension, and Jason Grunberg out of the Planning and Zoning, who's also our economic development guy. And so we put together this workforce, this small group to begin with, to start the process, and then they asked us, the Purdue and Kentucky people asked us to develop a steering committee of our local partners, and they had criteria. They wanted a percentage of females. They wanted it to be a diverse group. They wanted a smaller group so that it could work with. They wanted us to keep it around 15 to 18 people, and so they wanted people that could wear different hats. Perhaps you had a school administrator that also sat on a foundation board. Perhaps you had a Chamber of Commerce guy that sat on a economic development board somewhere or on a government board. So they had criteria. So we put that group together, and our 2-day workshop was with that steering committee, picking the themes that we thought were important. They give you 5 themes to pick from in this whole READY grant proposal on how you're going to change your economic development piece. And one of them was quality of life, one of them was economic development, one of them was workplace development, and then the last 2 are kind of connected. It was connectivity and technological innovation. So we kind of had 3 on the table that we were looking at: quality of life, economic development, and workforce development. And when we got to the group, we kind of thought, workforce development kind of fits in with economic development. So our 2 themes that we are working on are quality of life and economic development. Then once you have your themes, you pick your objectives, what you want to do, and then you pick your strategies, and then you pick team members that are going to lead those discussions. And then you pick up ancillary partners outside of your group. Like for instance, our group, some of the people we had Scott Larson from Mackey was a guy that's on the steering committee, the 15-person steering committee. Marianne Lippert is on that steering committee. She's got a presence with rural economic development on a statewide basis. We had Heather McKellips from the Encourage Foundation in Wisconsin Rapids. We had myself and Ken Curry, who are government officials, Nancy Turek from Extension there, Jason, of course, was on it. But we had a broad spectrum of people. We had a superintendent of schools, Terry Whitmore from Nakusa. But we had we had members of the whole chunk. Jim Webster was there. And so we had a very broad level of economic involvement from different areas. When I looked around the room, I thought, holy cow, the breadth of capacity, intelligence in that room as far as it related to economic development was amazing to me. Everybody left their personal agendas aside, which I was thankful for, and their political caps at the door. And we got down to business about talking about economic development in Wood County, something that we need to do. We should have done it before this, quite frankly. But the fact is, we're going to do it, and we're going to talk about some very serious things. We're going to talk about some things that can make a difference. And they encourage us, if there's elephants in the room, talk about them. This is where we're going to talk about them. Guess what the first elephant in the room popped up is? I mean, this is, I never personally brought into this one, but it's the north-south divide between Marshfield and Wisconsin Rapids. You have people doing economic development up here differently than you have people doing economic development down there. You have people doing everything differently up here and down there. And then if you want to throw into that dynamic the fact that you have your two bigger, I don't want to say metropolitan, probably, well, I guess.
Population centers.
Yeah, population centers, that's good. Your two bigger population centers that are kind of stealing the show, and you have places like Pittsville and Auburndale and Grand Rapids are saying, hey, what about us? So you can throw that in there too. So the gist of it is we need to look at economy, tax base, and economic development from an overarching county perspective. Because if we do and everybody buys in, number one, it builds trust. Number two, it builds collaboration, and that's exactly what you have to have if you're going to make a difference from a county perspective. So we talked about that on one of the things we can do. And at the end of the day, when everybody had left yesterday, I got with the two main presenters from Kentucky and Purdue, and I said, listen, tell me what you think happened here. What do you think happened here? You saw a lot of things on our whiteboards about ideas and who we were going to talk to and what we were going to do. Do you see something there that we can accomplish? Because I said, let's be realistic. We're not going to accomplish everything that we had listed there. We had a lot of stuff. There was a lot of thinking going on in 2 days. It was very incredibly intensive. And what is there something there that we can do that's going to make a difference and we can accomplish? And almost without hesitation, one of the things that had come up is rebranding the county. Rebranding the county. There was a lot of talk about when you or I, but it goes beyond you or I. It goes to like people in Illinois or Indiana. When you talk about Door County, people know exactly what you're talking about. You don't even have to say Door County, Wisconsin. You say Door County, and bam, people have an image. They know what it is. They want to go there, but they know exactly what they're getting into. That's part of what we're talking about. Doesn't mean that Sturgeon Bay doesn't have an individual plan or brand, but the fact is it still works under that overarching brand of Door County. And they said, if you can do that, you've gone a long ways.
That seems to me to be a more issue of popularity. Well, because they're a vacation spot. Of course you notice them or recognize them. They're in every vacation book. We don't have that here.
Maybe we are too. No one knows.
Well, I guess we could be. I don't know. There are plenty of things about Powers Bluff and other places that we could go and do, but I mean, you say Rib Mountain right over here, and that's where people go.
Yeah. Well, Rib Mountain's pretty close, but the fact is, and there are other things. It's not just about recreation, but there are other things. Healthcare is a big deal for Wood County. If you're looking for healthcare, if you're raising a family, healthcare may be on your radar. I mean, healthcare in Wood County. I mean, we've already established through numerous surveys that we're right up there. We rank very highly in that as one of our attributes. So maybe that's something you build on. There's a lot of good things about Wood County, but Marshfield can be advocating for certain things, and maybe Pittsville's advocating for certain things, and that's okay. That's okay. That's what they said. That's okay. But we need to incorporate them all in overarching. I think it was exciting. It's going to be interesting to see where we go, how we do it, and things like that. But we talked about a lot of things, a lot of different values, and how it affects people. Talking with Wood County Board Chairman Doug Machon here this third Friday in the month of December here on AM 1450 WDLB's Insight. We're live on radio right now. You may be watching us here on video through Marshfield Media Access throughout the rest of the month and into parts of January. So he avails himself to us here, and we talk about the business of the county board. We were talking about the READY grant for the
a county of wood, and you made it sound like we were really in the competition there with a lot of other people to get it, and we were picked as one of those. But then you started to talk about themes and what we're... So how did we get the grant? If we didn't go in with, here's what we're going to do with it, or how did they judge that we got it there?
Well, we did. It was an incredibly complicated, I don't think complicated is too strong of a word, but comprehensive application. A lot of people worked on it. I mean, the application was probably that thick. It was huge. And we did have to identify some of the things that we thought were important and that we needed to work on. They gave us some criteria, and then we kind of had to choose which, they gave us like check the box and things like that. And that's where like something like rural broadband came up. Holy cow, yeah, absolutely. That in itself is a big question, how you accomplish that. And I thought it was incredibly telling that when we talked about issues like that, it was like it was established early. Government can't do everything. And they're not going to do everything. There has to be a lift here from the private sector, and especially when you talk about an issue like rural broadband. Government's not going to go out and lay cable. We're not going to do that. But we may find a way to collaborate to get that done somehow, whether it's ordinances or whatever it could be, easements. I don't know. It could be a lot of things, but we're certainly not going to spend money as a county to lay cable. That's going to be a private sector thing. Private sector is going to probably capitalize on that on the bottom line some way. But the fact is, that's something that's missing. And we're not the only county in the state that's missing that. There's a state initiative going on in that as well. So hopefully we can collaborate and with some of those initiatives from the state as well. That's just one issue. When you talk about quality of life, we talk about housing. Housing is what we hear from anywhere from Auburndale to Marshfield to Wisconsin Rapids to Grand Rapids. Housing is probably the most common theme when it comes to we need to have housing. Well, what do you mean? What do you want? Do you want brand new houses? Do you want rentals? Do you want starter homes? What do you want?
2008 threw up a lot of dust.
It did.
Because now everybody was a homeowner. I can, and I've said on this program many times, I said I can remember when the economy included houses. Mm-hmm. I said, look, there's only so much land. At some point in time here, housing starts has got to be factored out of this because you can't just keep taking up every piece of farmland and hammering up subdivisions.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of a artificial indicator myself because housing starts, I don't know.
Well, now we're looking at where are people going to live? Because we went down in the number of new homes we built, then we're left with the stock and supply that we have.
Yeah. And not everybody wants to build one. I've got a 40-year-old son that doesn't own a house. Doesn't want to own a house. There's a lot of people like that. They want to be mobile. They want to be able to move in a they don't want to be tied to a house. That incredibly, I don't understand the thinking. I'm sorry. I bought my first house when I was 19. I'm sorry. That was what I was supposed to do. That's what my dad told me. You need to buy a house. It's what you do. You get out of school, you buy a house. You buy a car, you buy a house. Then you start a family. Okay. I don't know. That somewhere along the line we lost that somewhere along the way. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. We've changed as a society. We talked about downtown Christmases, down on walking from store to store. Not going to happen anymore. Maybe people aren't going to buy houses anymore. Maybe we need to change our thinking. But the fact is they still want to live in houses. Personally, what I see is normally with young people, they may not want to own a house, but they want to live in a nice place. Even if they're renting, they're willing to pay. I know people that are willing to pay, and this is the part I don't understand. I'm an old guy, and some things I just don't get. I like to be able to think I can at least critically thinking-wise figure things out. Eventually, this one I've never been able to figure out. Someone that's willing to pay a monthly lease payment that could get them a house. It's higher than a house payment, and they're more comfortable doing that, living in and I especially see it down in the bigger metropolises when you go down to that Milwaukee area. When I've looked at some of the places that my daughter's rented, as far as before she was married. Nice townhouses, and what are you paying a month here? I don't know, $1,250. I'm going, you get $1,250 a month. Go buy a house. I don't want to buy a house. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. The neighborhood's nice, but it might not always be nice. I might find a better place to live. Okay, I guess.
Well, first of all, financially and economically, that doesn't make sense to us.
Not to me.
Well, me either, but because we have perspective in the long run. Had I bought that house like you did when I was 19, I'd have assets now that I just gave away to somebody else at that time.
Yeah.
But you see, they think that this is always going to be the case because it's always been good. See, when we came up in the 50s, we thought it was always going to be good, too.
Yeah.
And then there were some kinks along the way, like 1968 and other places.
Taught us a lot of lessons. 80, I remember 80 and 81. Holy cow, those were the tough years. I had my first child then, unemployed for a year, laid off for a year, went back to work for like 4 months, laid off again for 8 months. It's wow. I swore I'd never make another payment with an unemployment check, and it changed me. It brings back, it kind of echoes what my grandfather who was born in 1903, lived to be 102 years old. But you know what? You know what the most impactful thing, I mean, time and again, he would reference it, and you could see it in how he acted and how he ran his personal finances. Lived through the Depression. Changed him completely. He used to tell me, you know what, in 1930, you know how much money I made in 1930? $700. Well, $700 was a lot different than $700 today. I mean, $700, you can go blow that on a good night out if you really want to. And but I mean, that was a year's income. And I mean, they bought a cow so they could have milk on their farm. They butchered pigs. They did everything themselves. But that had an impactful. And so when he came to Rapids, migrated to Wisconsin Rapids from Rhinelander, and got a job in a paper mill, which was outstanding employment even back then. I mean, you were on the top of the socioeconomic ladder. If you were working in a paper mill, you were making the top money in town. You didn't have much worries. Still, played it pretty tight. Didn't waste money.
Well, and that's what I said. All of us that came up after that have always thought it was going to be good. We've never seen a time when we didn't. We may have had some kinks along the way, 2008 and other places, as close as we've come to a depression.
That was scary times. I mean, 2008 was, things bottomed out pretty good. We were talking about the stock market before we went on the air, and I mean, holy cow, 2008. People took big. I worked with people that were bailing out left and right, and I mean, I always had the philosophy that long term you stay invested. You have to. I mean, historically, the payoff on the stock market historically has been better than any other financial instrument you can have. So, but I saw guys bail out, cash in everything, take their complete equities investment and turn it to cash. You guys are crazy. You're buying cheap right now. Buy cheap. And I always think about those guys now because I stayed in, and of course it bounced back nicely. And I wonder if they ever think, what could have been or what is now. But everybody thinks different. I have another son too that has a house and all that stuff, but never been through bad times. Doesn't understand doesn't understand the importance of saving. I mean, it's easy come, easy go, and got to have the best. And wow, you know what? That can kick you in the pants real quick.
It's a generation we brought up.
No kidding. I don't know. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, well, I don't allow people our age to cop out. I'm sorry. This
way to make me feel good as a father.
Blaming young people. No. That's where do they learn that?
I'm being facetious, but yeah. And you know what? Again, another issue. You want the best for your kids, and sometimes we don't help them by giving them everything they want. Sometimes you gotta earn your stripes. I mean, I God knows I had to.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's yeah. So we're going down the Ready grant process. It's going to be incredibly exciting. I think the people that we have in place there are very.
Does this get implemented, and what will we notice?
Well, what we'll do is we're going to develop a plan, and we're in the process of that now, and we'll meet again. But we've identified some strategies and some people that are going to go and try to accomplish those objectives, some of them. So we'll develop a written plan. It'll be a written, published plan. It'll come before the county board and be adopted by the county board at some point. And then it'll be implementation, and then hopefully we'll see the effects of those implementations, and because that's an important part of this entire process, is that there has to be measurables. We're going to the goals and objectives have to be measurable. So we have to say, this is what we expect at the end of this implementation. We expect the tax base to grow, and this is all hypothetical from my point of view. The tax base grows by 3%, or our housing starts, if that's a criteria, increases by 5%, or our Main Street, the openings on our Main Street businesses are non-existent. We don't have any openings. All our buildings are full. A number of blighted properties has been reduced. We talked about blighted properties, a big issue. A lot of people don't want to talk about it, but there's ways that you can do. If we're tax deeding properties as a county, is there some things we can do with those properties? If you tax deed a property that's worthless, what are you going to do with it? You're going to just hang on to it as a county, or maybe you raise a building on it, or rather than take a beating on selling it, and get it shovel ready for somebody. I don't know. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of opportunity here. We'll see where it goes.
Talking with Wood County Board Chairman Doug Machon today on the Insight program here this third Friday in the month of December on the 20th, coming to you live on WDLB and rewatch on video with Marshfield Media Access on their Facebook page or else on their homepage. Here you can join us, 384-2191, 384-2191 on this final month of the year. Time is running out for you to do your Christmas shopping. Hiller's True Value in Marshfield has great last-minute gifts for everyone, like Melissa and Doug toys and plush animals for the kids. What would Dad like? Hiller's has a great selection of Traeger smokers and Weber grills and a full line of Milwaukee power tools. Don't forget Mom, Hiller's has what she wants too, like Wilton baking products. Everything she needs to make the best candies and cakes around. Hiller's has the largest selection of Wilton products in central Wisconsin. Hiller's has Yeti coolers and mugs too. A great gift for anyone. Hiller's True Value is a must-stop for holiday shopping. Pick up Hiller's sale flyer for great deals throughout the store. If you don't know what you want to get, Hiller's has gift cards too. Get everything you need for the special person on your list and shop local this holiday season at Hiller's True Value of Marshfield. Open weekdays 8 to 8, Saturdays 8 to 5, and Sundays 9 till 4.
O Holy Night, O Night Divine. O Holy Night when Christ was born. Jeff Ertl Trucking of Auburndale would like to thank all their customers this past year, along with all the first responders, police and military, and their families, in wishing them joy and happiness this Christmas season. May there be peace and goodwill to all. From Jeff Ertl Trucking of Auburndale.
AM 1450 WDLB's Inside program here on WDLB Live this third Friday of the month of December. And on the third Friday, Wood County Board Chairman Doug Machon comes up to avail himself to your comments and questions. We're talking a little bit about the business of the county, but as you said earlier in the program here, the 12th month is kind of slow.
It is, and January will be as well, and then we'll start rolling. You know, when we get into the early months of next year, we'll start. Departments will start, kind of formulating their budgets for 2021.
Well, two things. One, we're in the wintertime and budgets, and I thought, well, we just got off. The TV said it's the snowiest or most precipitation we've had for the year.
Yeah.
So yours goes calendar year. And that's what they talked about. I know this winter season, as you think of it, generally December, January, February, so it goes over the year.
Yep.
But calendar year, we had more precipitation, more snow from last February. Counts on this year's budget as well.
Yep.
So
we weren't done shoveling last April.
Yeah.
We weren't done plowing roads last April. We were hoping to be, but we're not. So yeah, we have a small deficit in our snow plowing budget right now. It's nothing to worry about. I mean, I hate to say that, but yeah, we're okay. We'll be good.
Well, you got another 10, 12 days here yet, and then
Well, it looks good. I mean, the short range forecast looks pretty good. So let's hope we don't have any flooding, Jeff. That could be the next thing. We don't want it too nice either.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't all melt at once.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So coming up here, you've got some other things as you round out the year.
I got a couple of things I'd just like to mention. A couple of events that are coming up that are in the county that I think are important for people to be aware of, and they can partake or join them if they care. One of them was we have a Wisconsin Rural Summit coming up in April, right here in Marshfield, Hotel Marshfield, where my wife and I ate last Friday, which we come up for the concert and celebrate the season concert at the college, which we always hit. That's date night for us in Hotel Marshfield. We were there. We ate there last week. Food's great. I love that place. I used to like the Thomas House, and I was disappointed when they closed, but I sure like the Hotel Marshfield. Anyway, Marianne Lippert gave me these when we were at the Ready Grant thing and asked me to pass them out, so I thought I'd mention it here today on the show. Wisconsin Rural Summit, she's very involved in rural economic development, so she's part of our team. Hotel Marshfield on April 22nd and 23rd. Today's hot rural topics. So that could include a lot of different things. Thought I'd mention it. Another thing is there's going to be a groundwater panel discussion at Nakusa High School on Monday, January 6th. And the reason I mention it is because there are some very big high hitters here that are going to be on the panel. I'll just mention some of these names because I'm sure they'll ring a bell out there. And people worth listening to on this subject. A good two-sided conversation, I think. And I think that's really what's needed in that arena when we talk about groundwaters. It has to be a two-sided conversation. Mark Borchert, who's from the USDA, is going to be there. Yi Wang from UW-Madison, he's a horticulturist. Nancy Eggleston, which is Wood County's own environmentalist, environmental health officer. Andy Dirks from Coloma Farms is going to be there. State Senator Patrick Teston, State Representative Katrina Shanklin, and State Representative Scott Krug as well. So I think that's going to be a very interesting discussion. 8 on Monday, January 6th. I know I plan on being there. I think anytime you can hear, we've gained so much analytical data on all of that stuff, and you come to think about it. And when we talked about quality of life or quality of place in our Ready Grant, that's one of the things you talk about. You talk about it from both sides. Exactly, you have to, because agriculture is a part of our county economy. So you want to hear from them. I think it's the way I approach any problem is, you know what, once you've got a problem, forget about trying to place blame or pointing fingers. You got a problem, let's work collaboratively to see how we solve that problem. And forget about the finger pointing, forget about the poking each other in the eye. Let's agree that we have a problem, and let's look at a way that we can all get together and find a solution that makes everyone happy.
Well, when you're looking over the table and you think the other one's the problem, that gets a little...
You have to get past that. You really have to get past that thinking. I always like to say, let's start with we have a problem. Okay? Leave the historical crap behind. We have a problem. Let's solve the problem. How going forward do we solve the problem in a logical, sensible way?
A lot of people want to talk more about how we got here.
Yeah, and you know what? That doesn't get us anywhere, does it?
Good to see you again. I always appreciate the time you spend and come up here.
I love it coming to Marshfield. It's like I said, the third day in the row, and I'm not complaining. I'm going to do a little shopping. I'm going to eat. There's lots of good places. I said to my wife, I'm going to Marshfield this time. I said, I know I'm not going to have the afternoon full. I'm going to make some stops, so you might not see me till supper time.
Well, good to have you. Thank you for being up here.
No problem. My pleasure always. Merry Christmas again.
That's Board Chairman for Wood County, Doug Machon, on this third Friday of the month of December. You know that if you're listening live, or you could be watching us on Marshfield Media Access, Channel 989 on your Spectrum Digital tier of channels on the cable, or you could watch it on their Facebook page or on their media page or web page as well. I'm Jeff Cannon with you. Hope to talk to you again soon here, and the holidays are upon us as we speak to you here on WDLB.